Okay. All right. So it says it's recording. So, hi everyone. This will be um, the first training, I believe, if not probably one of the later ones. My name is Briye Francis, and I'm a counselor this year with the program, of course, the summer youth program. And today, my topic is breaking out the box. So, this is going to be about um, making yourself aware of the limits that you may have on yourself and how to use them to push yourself forward instead of holding you back. So, for the first couple of minutes, I do have a TED Talk, and I'm going to share my screen. So I'm going to do that. And this is the video. And it's called Get Comfortable with Being Uncomfortable. All right. Make it bigger.
I'm a professional troublemaker. As my job is to critique the world, the shoddy systems, and the people who refuse to do better. As a writer, as a speaker, as a shady Nigerian, I feel like my purpose is to be this cat. I am the person who's looking at other people like, I need you to fix it. That is me. I want us to leave this world better than we found it. And how I choose to affect change is by speaking up, by being the first, and by being the domino. For a line of dominoes to fall, one has to fall first, which then leaves the other choiceless to do the same. And that domino that falls, we're hoping that, okay, the next person that sees this is inspired to be a domino. Being the domino for me looks like speaking up and doing the things that are really difficult, especially when they're needed, with the hope that others will follow suit. And here's the thing, I'm the person who says what you might be thinking, but dare not to say. And a lot of times people think that we're fearless, the people who do this, we're fearless. We're not fearless. We're not unafraid of the consequences or the sacrifices that we have to make by speaking truth to power. What happens is we feel like we have to, because there are too few people in the world willing to be the domino, too few people willing to take that fall. We're not doing it without fear. Now let's talk about fear. I knew exactly what I wanted to be when I grew up. I was like, I'm gonna be a doctor. Dr. Lovey was the dream. I was Doc McStuffins before it was a thing. And I remember when I went to college, my freshman year, I had to take Chemistry 101 for my pre-med major. I got the first and last D of my academic career. So I went to my advisor and I was like, okay, let's drop the pre-med because this doctor thing is not gonna work because I don't even like hospitals. So let's just consider that done for. And that same semester, I started blogging. That was 2003. So as that one dream was ending, another was beginning. And then what was a cute hobby became my full-time job when I lost my marketing job in 2010. But it still took me 2 more years to say, I'm a writer. 9 years after I started writing, before I said, I'm a writer, because I was afraid of what happens without 401ks, without, how am I gonna keep up my shoe habit? That's important to me. So it took me that long to own this thing. That was what my purpose was. And then I realized fear has a very concrete power of keeping us from doing and saying the things that are our purpose. And I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna let fear rule my life. I'm not gonna let fear dictate what I do. And then all these awesome things started happening and dominoes started to fall. So when I realized that, I was like, okay, 2015, I turned 30. It's gonna be my year of do it anyway. Anything that scares me, I'm gonna actively pursue it. So I'm a Capricorn. I like my feet solidly on the ground. I decided to take my first ever solo vacation, and it was out of the country to the Dominican Republic. So on my birthday, what did I do? I went zip lining through the forest of Punta Cana. And for some odd reason, I had on business casual. Don't ask why. And I had an incredible time. Also, I don't like being submerged in water. I like to be, again, on solid ground. So I went to Mexico and swam with dolphins underwater. And then the cool thing that I did also that year that was my mountain was I wrote my book, I'm Judging You to Do Better manual. And I had to own that whole writing thing now, right? Yes. But the very anti-me thing that I did that year that scared the crap out of me, I went skydiving. We're about to fall out the plane. I was like, I've done some stupid things in life. This is one of them. And then we come falling down to earth, and I literally lose my breath as I see earth. And I was like, I just fell out of a perfectly good plane on purpose. What is wrong with me? But then I looked down at the beauty, and I was like, this is the best thing I could have done. This is an amazing decision. And I think about the times when I have to speak truth. It feels like I am falling out that plane. It feels like that moment when I'm at the edge of the plane, and I'm like, you shouldn't do this. But then I do it anyway because I realize I have to. Sitting at the edge of that plane and kind of staying on that plane is comfort to me. And I feel like every day that I'm speaking truth against institutions and people who are bigger than me and just forces that are more powerful than me, I feel like I'm falling out of that plane. But I realize comfort is overrated because being quiet is comfortable. Keeping things the way they've been is comfortable. And all comfort has done is maintain the status quo. So we've got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable by speaking these hard truths when they're necessary. And for me, though, I realized that I have to speak these truths because honesty is so important to me. My integrity is something I hold dear. Justice, I don't think justice should be an option. We should always have justice. Also, I believe in shea butter as a core value. And I think the world would be better if we were all more moisturized. But besides that, with these as my core values, I have to speak the truth. I have no other choice in the matter. But then people like me, the professional troublemakers, should not be the only ones who are committed to being these dominoes who are always falling out the planes or being the first one to take this hit. People are so afraid of these acute consequences, not realizing that there are many times when we walk in rooms and we are some of the most powerful people in those rooms. We might be the second most powerful, third most powerful. And I firmly believe that our job in those times is to disrupt what is happening. And then if we're not the most powerful, if two or more of us band together, it makes us powerful. It's like co-signing the woman in the meeting, you know, the woman who can't seem to get her word out, or just making sure that other person who can't make a point is being heard. Our job is to make sure they have room for that. Everyone's well-being is community business. If we made that a point, we'd understand that for the times when we need help, we wouldn't have to look around so hard if we made sure we were somebody else's help. And there are times when I feel like I have taken very public tumbles and falls. Like a time when I was asked to speak at a conference and they wanted me to pay my way there. And then I did some research and found out the white men who spoke there got compensated and got their travel paid for. The white women who spoke there got their travel paid for. The Black women who spoke there were expected to actually pay to speak there. And I was like, what do I do? And I knew that if I spoke up about this publicly, I could face financial loss. But then I also understood that my silence serves no one. So I fearfully spoke up about it publicly, and other women started coming out to talk about, I too have faced this type of pay inequality. And it started a conversation about discriminatory pay practices that this conference was participating in. I felt like I was the domino the time I read a disturbing memoir by a public figure and wrote a piece about it. And I knew this person was more powerful than me and could impact my career. But I was like, I gotta do this. I gotta sit at the edge of this plane, maybe for 2 hours. And I did. And I pressed publish and I ran away. And I came back to a viral post and people being like, oh my God, I'm so glad somebody finally said this. And it started a conversation about mental health and self-care. And I was like, okay, all right, this thing that I'm doing, I guess, all right, it's doing something. And then So many people have been the domino when they talk about how they've been assaulted by powerful men. And it's made millions of women join in and say, me too. So shout out to Tarana Burke for igniting that movement. People and systems count on our silence to keep us exactly where we are. Now, being the domino sometimes comes down to being exactly who you are. So I've been a shady somebody since I was 3. This is me on my 3rd birthday. But I've been this girl all my life. And I feel like even that's been the domino, because in a world that wants us to walk around as representatives of ourselves, being yourself can be a revolutionary act. And in a world that wants us to whisper, I choose to yell.
All right, so that was an amazing video by Miss Lovey. She is an amazing motivational speaker. So I'm going to stop screen recording now and switch to my page that I have a little bit of notes on. So let's do that. So what I wanted you guys to get the most out of the video is that even people in some of the most powerful positions that are moving on in their career and moving up in their career, no matter where they're moving to, there's always moments that people are scared. People are nervous to speak up. People are nervous to not be themselves, what they would usually characterize as them. Whether you're a more quiet person and you have to speak up, or you're a loud person and you have to humble yourself a little bit and let somebody else speak, or help them speak, help them find their voice. That's something that is really powerful, and it can only help you move forward. So I have 4 points that I want to get through really quickly before I end this video. And the first one is, what does your possible self mean? What does being your possible self look like? So your possible self is who you are now versus who you want to be. This is, how do you take those steps to be who you want to be? So putting into practice, let's imagine what a limitless life looks like to you. You're able to do what you want in your career. You can take any job that you want. You have financial freedom. You live in your dream house. You have all that you want out of life, no matter what it may be. Those things may not be listed there, but those are your aspirations. So my 2 questions, these are questions that you'll have to turn into your counselor with your timesheet. And I have 2 questions for you. What did you imagine would make your life limitless? What factors in your life would be eliminated to make yourself the best version of you? And this could be character details as well. Maybe you are on the quieter side, or you aren't as focused in some areas of life as you want to be. And those things will help you move forward and be who you want to be. So that's something to think about. And the second question I have for you is, how did you get there? What was your career pathway? What did you do? Did you go to school? Did you go to real estate in school? Did you take a year off to figure out what you wanted to do? Did you take a couple jobs and see what type of fields you want to be in? Did you meet a mentor? What did you do to get there? What were some of the steps? The first thing you can do for yourself is really start to have a general map of how you're going to get to your goals. Things may change along the way, but as long as you have that base of how you're going to get there, that's the start, and that's the good part. So, the second bullet point that I have is the difference between our possible selves being driven by hopes versus fears. So, um, being in a limitless life, you have to take out the things that limit you. So, when you look at those things that are limiting you and how you get over them, you can either look at them as hope driven and being positive and getting around them in a positive mindset, or you can look at them as fear driven and that can push you back further than it can push you forward. It's a difference between knowing the reality of your situation and being fearful of the reality of your situation and letting that hold you back a little bit more. So, one of the limits that people can have in their life could be money. They don't have the financial freedom or the parents to help them to get to college or do anything like that. Start a business. Some people have people in their life that will give them the foundation, monetarily foundation to start a business. Some people may have to work a couple jobs to save up to start their own business and still work that job while they're reaching their goals. So you can either look at it as, hey, I'm doing this right now to get to my goals, or you can look at it as, man, I don't have the money that I need to get where I want to go, so I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to just go from here and maybe I'll come up on some money, maybe I won't. But I have to do what I have to do right now to survive. And that's a realistic situation, but it doesn't have to be end all be all. There's always grants, scholarships, and even finding a mentor. They could be the person to fund your dreams. So that's another thing. Another thing, distractions. People can get caught up with other people's opinions or their opinions of themselves, or not doing the right things that will put them on the right tracks for success. So that could be, you could look at your distractions as, okay, I'm surrounded by a group of friends that aren't really good for me and they don't have the same mindset I have, and I need to find some new friends who think the same way as I do. Or you can be like, fear driven and negative, and, this is who I'm surrounded by. And if they're not on the same page as me, maybe I'm doing too much. Maybe I'm thinking too boldly. Like, maybe I need to calm down a little bit and stay on the road that I'm on and see where I go from there. And that's not the truth. That's not the truth at all. And that doesn't have to be your life. Who you surround yourself with and who you are surrounded by on an everyday basis doesn't have to be who you are. Um, Another thing, looking at things as all or nothing instead of a process. This is a big one. So when you're going through your journey and trying to get to who your possible self may be, um, it's not black and white. You may have bumps in the road and people tell you this, and it's like, oh, yeah, I know there's going to be hard times. But, what people don't tell you is maybe something on your plan was looking like a 100% guarantee. You had no idea that it may fall through, and it does, and then you have to figure out how you're going to get around this. That's a really big limit. I know for me personally, I went to school thinking that like her, I was going to be a med student. Then I switched to nursing. And my senior year, actually, I switched my major again and still ended up graduating on time with a degree in health science. And that was a really big switch for me. But through learning, I learned that I love advocating for people and teaching people about healthcare and expanding what healthcare can be for a lot of people. So that's one of my passions, and I plan on getting my master's now in public health, specifically in administration and dealing with laws that help us get the needs that our community needs and the citizens of the United States needs. So, looking at your plan as black and white and seeing that, you know, things can either work out or they don't, that's not true. Everything is a process, and you may have a bump in the road, but that's okay, and you'll get through it. And there's also always another solution. People say one door closes, another opens, and that's absolutely true. Um, Focusing on the negative. That's a little like before, when you can either look at it as black and white, and when something goes wrong, you can be like, well, I guess it's not meant to be. And that's not true. You can either be hope driven and say, you know what, this happened, but I need to figure out another way to make who I am happen, because your possible self is always who you are. It's not a different person, it's who you want to be. And that is who you are. Those are not two separate people. So you can either focus on, I'm about to make something else happen, or you can be like, I guess it's not meant to be. Environment is also like distractions as well. Like I said, who you are surrounded by doesn't have to be who you are. And it can be really difficult, and that can be really like a burden on you. Not being surrounded by the right situations, the right people, even just stepping outside your door and it's not the environment that you want to be in. Um, you got to figure out a way to change that for yourself, and change that for your loved ones if you want, and inspire them to do more. Um, Lastly, jumping to conclusions about anything. And this could be yourself or other people. Um, we are our biggest critics. A lot of people are their biggest critics. And jumping to conclusions about yourself. Like I said earlier, you may be a more quiet person, or you may be a more outspoken person, and you may think, oh, I can't do that. I've never been quiet in my life. Oh, I can't do that. I've never been loud in my whole life. I've never been able to talk. And nothing is able to not change. Nothing is able to not be adaptable, and that includes you. Um, Anything that you want to make happen, it can happen. So jumping to conclusions about anything, whether it be you yourself or another person, you may be looking at somebody else like, hey, I don't know if this is the right fit for them. Um, you don't know that other person. You would hate for someone to look at you that way, and say, hey, they're a quiet person. They're a person who is always distracted with their friends. I don't see them as a person who can be taken seriously. So you would never want anybody else to look at you that way. So I suggest that you don't look at other people that way, and you look at them for the potential and who they can be. So the second to last point that I have is what do we get out of this? Why is this important? Why is breaking out of our own expectations of ourselves important? Moving through life and knowing yourself more is the biggest thing. To be successful, you're going to have to know your strengths and your weaknesses and how to work on them accordingly, and how to use them accordingly. You can have your biggest strengths, but if you don't know how to use them in the setting that you need to use them in to be successful, then that's a weakness. It's not a strength. So, and you can look at your weaknesses and say, hey, these aren't the things that I'm the best at. I need to become the best at them, especially if it applies to what you're doing. And there's always certain things that are the basics. People hate reading out loud. People hate speaking publicly. But those are things that I have learned through college that you will not be able to get away from, no matter um, how much you want to take a job that is, you're working by yourself. You don't really have to speak to people. It's impossible. It really is. I don't know a job that even IT people that work with computers, they constantly are working with people and having to speak to them. So if you look at public speaking and working on anything like Microsoft Excel and stuff like that, I avoided that forever, but it's something that everybody uses. And there's certain basics that we all have to work on and achieve and know how to do because they are basics. So if you're avoiding anything at school, whether it be reading, math, whatever, you will have to figure out how to be successful at them. So it's the best thing for yourself to learn your strengths, learn your weaknesses, and grow from them accordingly. Most jobs, most of the jobs we will work as Gen Z have not been created yet. This is something that I was taught from a very young age at school. Um, Most of the jobs that we are going to take as professionals and young professionals are not created yet. Um, One thing to look forward to in your future as a person that's going to be a part of society in a real way, where you're going to work no matter what your job is, no matter what your career is, you will always be solving a problem. So the best thing you can do for yourself, and this is why this really matters, is look at your strengths and weaknesses, look at what you're passionate about, and then go from there and say, what is the problem in it? What is the problem that needs to be solving? How can this operate better? And boom, there's your career, honestly. As simple as that sounds, it's really hard operating through it now and being a new grad and trying to find a job. And it's something that is very tricky because, like I said, a lot of the jobs that we are thinking as young adults and seeing the world around us change, and we're making ourselves more aware of what's going on. It's a little bit different, and it's something that as we see problems, we're going to have to figure out how to solve them in our careers. And that may be a whole career. That might not be just solving the problem. It could be, like I said, a whole career pathway. How do we do this? This is the last point. You can educate yourself. You can set a plan that is flexible. Like I said, it's not black and white. It's a process, and put everything into motion. These are the best things you can do for yourself. Absolutely educate yourself. School is one of the best ways to do it, but school isn't for everybody. And there's a lot of online learning going on right now, especially in the tech community and engineering community, with our phones and our computers, people learning how to um, code and stuff like that. That is a career pathway and field that is blowing up right now, and you don't have to get a degree to make six figures. So that's an amazing career pathway. But just educating yourself um, in every way possible. Like I said, a lot of the career pathways that all of us will be going down, they're jobs that haven't been created yet. So the best thing you can do for yourself is look at the career pathways that you're most interested in, educate yourself on them, and look at the problems that they're facing. Um, and set a plan that's flexible and doable, and always make the room for failure. Always make the room for it, and then always make the room for yourself to bounce back, and really learn from that situation and move forward. It's always important to move forward and take a situation that requires more learning, more education, and move forward with it. Um, and like I said, put everything into motion, no matter how that may be, in your own way, in your own process. Like I said, you can start small and move up. Is never, no motion is ever too small where it doesn't count towards your possible self. Um, but that is the last point, and I really enjoyed this topic, and I really enjoyed talking to all of you guys, and I hope you guys enjoyed as well. Like I said, my name is Briye Francis, and I'm a counselor with the Summer Youth Program this summer. And I hope you all have an amazing summer and enjoy the rest of your trainings. Bye.